Hi guys, welcome back to the desktop. It's Freddy here with another retro RPG. And this week I would like to present this, Lone Wolf, the role-playing game. Now I've talked about Lone Wolf before in different videos from the retro series, and recently I've been going on about Dungeons & Dragons as I've started GMing it again after a break of some 30 years. And we came to 3rd edition, and I mentioned about the D20 system, which could be licensed out, or the OGL, which was the Open Gaming License, where people could take the basic Dungeons & Dragons rules and write their own material. And Lone Wolf, if I flick to the back, is an OGL game. It's a role-playing game based on the Dungeons & Dragons rules, which is amusing to me because it's also based upon the Lone Wolf gaming books, which themselves were based upon a Dungeons & Dragons campaign that the author and his friends played in a fantasy world called Magnamund. Now, the Lone Wolf series of books were choose-your-own-adventure style books. So you would read a chapter, and at the end of it, it would say, if you kick down the door, then turn to page 253. If you abandon the door and wander off down the track, then turn to page 71. And it would take you through the story where you got to make the decisions, and it would unfold. The story would unfold, and you could fight things. You had a certain amount of hit points on your character sheet, and it used this weird grid thing where you could select a random number. So you would be fighting monsters and taking damage and using healing potions and playing a role-playing game, basically, as you read a game book. The Lone Wolf books were my introduction to fighting fantasy, basically, and I absolutely adored them. I've got through to about book 22, I think it is. I'm pretty sure they kept going, maybe as far as 29. I probably should have looked it up before I started doing this video. But they were absolutely brilliant. Your character went up and progressed as you went through levels. You got to keep magical items from previous books. And it would mention it. In the second book, you go on a quest to get this magical sword called the Summer Sword, which only works in the hands of a Kai warrior, which, fortunately, you are the last of the Kai. And other books, you know, when you're reading book 15 or whatever, it will say, if you happen to have the Summer Sword, turn to page 212 or whatever. So the items you'd kept had effects. Now, they couldn't remember every item, because I remember carrying the Summer Sword, and I also had the dagger Helshazag, which was a Darklord weapon, which had certain magical effects, but they just kind of forgot about those as the books went on. I think they remembered them for a couple, but then just kind of forgot about them. But it was fantasy role-playing in a book format for just the person who didn't have friends to get together and game with. Now, this was the role-playing game which came out in 2005. There's been successors to this as the Lone Wolf license has progressed from Mongoose Publishing. I believe it's on Cubicle 7 now, and they brought out the Lone Wolf multiplayer game book, which is basically just their role-playing game. Although I believe they based theirs more on the rules in the Lone Wolf game books themselves, rather than what they've done here is base them on Dungeons & Dragons. But I can see advantages to both. Anyway, let's start reading through the cover, because I've been wittering on for an absolute age, and we haven't even read this. So, Lone Wolf, the role-playing game. This book is the definitive guide to the world of Magnamund, and the many role-playing possibility it provides. Here you will find the Brotherhood of the Crystal Star before their order went into seclusion. You can ride with the Summerland Knights of the Realm 5 decades before their fateful charge against the Darklords Zagana decimated their numbers. You can walk the forests of the World Lions with the Telkos Amazons. I'm having difficulty pronouncing some of these. Alert for any danger that might leap out of the Toa trees. If you can imagine an adventure, it awaits you somewhere on the face or in the dark caverns of Magnamund. Discover how to create Kai Lords of your own. wield their immense supernatural disciplines in battle, and take up arms against seemingly infinite hordes of darkness that plague the land. You will find the many spells of the Crystal Star lexicons, the magic of the Desi, and the wild spiritualism of the Telkoi, and see for yourself how very different they are. The wisdom of many races, both old and new, will be at your command, making the stories you wish to tell in your campaigns more compelling and detailed. From psychic combat to the searing force of elementalism, you will have all the power you need to do battle against the night and defend whichever kingdom you proudly call home. Lone Wolf the Role-Playing Game is an entire sourcebook and role-playing game encompassed within a single tome. Every rule and role-playing suggestion is included in the spirit of the original Lone Wolf series, updated to OGL rules and expanded to incorporate both North and South Magnamund. Over 100 pages are detailed to the gazetteer and bestiary sections, with detailed descriptions of the many realms, races, and monsters that make up Magnamund. Notes on cultures, encounters, and the inevitable dangers of the land will be at your fingertips. Want to travel into the jungle of horrors? This guide will let you know what plants are edible and which ones might try to eat you instead, and discover why you should stock up on your lamb spur potions before taking a trip to Ruel. Statistics for dozens of terrible beasts and vile henchmen are given to throw at those foolish enough to oppose the rise of the Darklords, from skulking Gaiacs to the raging might of the Mortor. These foes will pose quite a challenge for anyone determined to play hero in a world designed to fall before the might of the Helgigad and its shadowy hordes. By Mongoose Publishing. As I said, this came out in 2005, so it was a long time after the 80s books were released, but the author of the original books, Joe Dever, it slipped my mind there, Joe Dever was still alive at that point, and he had a hand in designing this game as far as I'm aware. So, opening up. It's black and white inside, which is a little disappointing after all the wonderful, colourful books of Wizard of the Coast. And we've got the contents page here. I am stumbling over my words, something terrible today. So we've got the introduction section about role-playing, and then we're straight onto character classes. Like basic Dungeons & Dragons and that kind of games, you can't play a Dwarf Kylord or any of these. You get to choose Brother of the Crystal Star, Dwarven Gunner of Boar, Kylord, Magician of Desi, Shadowkai Buccaneer, Summoner Knight of the Realm, Telkos Warrior. And that's your classes. I'm imagining the playtesting Alan Moore isn't the comic book writer. It would be one hell of a coup if they did. This actually says 2004. I'm pretty sure it didn't come out until 2005, though. But I could be wrong. So we've got an introduction section. Lots of text there to talk you through. We've got role-playing in Magnamund. We've got the story so far there, detailing everything. We go through the ability scores as standard, so strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. Ability modifiers. This all should seem very familiar after the last few videos. Endurance dice, level-dependent benefits, vital statistics, so your age, your height and weight, aging effects, and then we're into Brother of the Crystal Star. Brother of the Crystal Star. Told you I was stumbling on my words today. I probably should have had vodka, that would have loosened my tongue. Anyway, we go through the standard Dungeons & Dragons type thing, where we've got the endurance dice, base speed, class skills, class features, where they get to do magical combat and Skyrider and words of power, grand word of power. So as they got levels, they get access to more abilities. So a 20th level Brother of Crystal Star gains access to grand word of power and mystic expertise. They can counterspell. We go through, and there's a lot of detail on each class. The sections are broken down extremely well, so you're not searching through the rules for extra abilities. Everything is kind of detailed for your character class in here. And then we've got the Dwarven Gunner of Boar, which you notice there's not any pictures. We get to a picture here, but there is just a lot of text in this book. Now, that's a good thing. You're getting a lot of writing for your money, but I do like illustrations. Picture tells 1,000 words, as they say. So I would have liked to have instantly been able to see a picture of a Dwarven Gunner of Boar and seen what they look like in comparison. are Magnamund dwarves exactly as you would expect? Or are they shorter or taller? Or are they muscled? Are they fat? You know, I would like to know that information, just at a glance. But anyway, we go through, we've got the secrets of the gun, because they actually do have firearms. And we're on to the Kai Lord. A very faint picture in the background there for what are basically magical rangers. But they are the heroes of the main series of books. So we go through, they gain their Kai disciplines, they gain their Magna Kai disciplines, because that was how the game books dealt with it. In the first, I think, 7 books, you gained Kai disciplines, so 1 per book, until you had all of them, so you could do healing, you could do levitation, etc. But then you became a Magna Kai as you learnt special abilities because you'd mastered everything. And then you gained Grandmaster abilities on top of that. And we go through the various abilities they gain. Mind Shield, Magna Kai disciplines. Some nice pictures, but not many. We have lots and lots of text. And then we're on to the Magicians of Desi. Again, no pictures of them. But we go through the abilities. We can see they gain access to a wizard's staff, elder arts, fate's blessing 4 times a day. And everything's nicely detailed. So you just need to copy a few pages, you know, scan them in, keep them on your tablet or phone, or at the time, I suppose, photocopy them, because we didn't really have the technology then. And you've got the rules, everything you need for your character, without having a rulebook separate. Shadokai Buccaneers. Again, we go through everything they're capable of. You can see they're sort of more fancy and flouncy warriors. Summoner Knights of the Realm, where they gain their class features: Saddle Mastery, Born to the Sword, Oath Sworn, the Codes of Knighthood. And we detail all those out. Teklos Warriors. So these are female Amazons. You can just make out one with her staff and her warrior's bikini. But again, I would like to have seen that picture better. We go through all their abilities, and we're getting quite heavily into the book, and we're just going through the classes and their abilities. And then we're on to skills. We've got all the skills, as in the D20 system, they're sort of broken down. So you've got acrobatics, you've got disguise, and you've got class skills and cross-class. So CC is cross-class, so that costs double for you to increase. Class skill is you spend your skill points as you go up levels. So for acrobatics, the Teklos Warrior, the Shadokai Buccaneer, and the Kai Lord all have that as class. But if you want to play an acrobatic Brother of the Crystal Star, it's possible it just costs you more of your skill points. Let's keep flicking through. Athletics, and we detail how all the skills work. So crafting, disabling device, handling animals, and we get details and the difficulties. Difficulties to get your animal to attack or come or defend you. Knowledge skills, performance skills. The book is being very springy, so I'm trying to hold it open so you can see. Got sleight of hand. Stealth, which gets an armor check penalty. Survival, and then we're on to the equipment, which again is fairly standard for a fantasy game. So we've got various swords, and we've got the carrying capacities there, weapon qualities, different types of weapons there, mastercrafted and superior weapons. We've got types of armor, so going from padded up to full plate armor, as is standard for Dungeons and Dragons. Goods and services, magical items. I'm starting to skip through here because we don't need to read every page. Combat. Standard actions. Combat modifiers. Common armor, weapon, and shield hardness and endurance, so you can try and break weapons. Grievous wounds. Healing limits. And you continue to see there's not many pictures in this at all. You get occasional pictures and they're nice enough, but I'm very surprised because the game books came with quite a lot of art in them. We had colour covers, obviously, of, as I said, there's about sort of 29, maybe even 30 books. So you'd got 30 full colour plates to use, and each book had a half dozen or so illustrations within, as well as much smaller ones on single pages. So when you were facing a Gaiac, which is basically a goblin in combat, the page would show what the Gaiac looked like. And when there were huge dramatic moments, it would have full pages. And these could have been used in there. If you're talking 30 books with 6 images in each, you've got access to 180 images. So an image per page. But perhaps they were keeping them back for source books. Perhaps they just didn't want to run to more pages than this. And then we're on to adventuring in Magnamund. So, basic adventuring stuff. Healing diseases. Organic hazards. Lone Wolf's Games Master, so we're on to the Games Mastering section. Supporting rules. The Magnamund Gazetteer, so we can detail the history of the world. The great dragon Nixator is slain by Agarash, and the Lawstones captured. The Helghast Wars end. Vashna forms the Black Muster in preparation for war with Sommerland. And it details all the history of the fantasy world of Magnamund. We then go through it geographically, explaining the different kingdoms. So the Kingdom of Bor, the Free State of Karen, the Free State of Chaman, the Darklands, the Danarg, which was mainly a swamp from what I remember, the Hammerlands, the Infernal Hell Swamp, the Icy Wastes of Colt, or Colty, maybe, the Mackenmire, the Slave State of Ogia, and again, not much in the way of artwork. Lots of descriptive text, which is good, but really disappointed with the amount of art in here. We're on to Southern Magnamund, and more kingdoms and more text. I would perhaps preferred them to have detailed a couple of areas in far more detail, but maybe they were keeping them back for source books. They were just trying to give you the entire world. But there's some ideas here of what all the different countries are like. Lots and lots, and we're getting towards the end of the book. What else have we got? Come on. And the bestiary. So we've got different creatures. Now, if there's not artwork in this section, and I haven't browsed through it yet, that will be terrible, because the fantasy creatures in Magnamund are different. You don't really get goblins or trolls or that. You get Gaiacs, and you get evil Zakarim and all that kind of thing. Darklords, which really you should get pictures of. So we're going through the abilities. We've got a picture here, but we're still going through different abilities that the creatures have. And we're on to the Agarashi with no picture. Acroneonor, no picture. Anafeg. We've got Cryptspawn. So we have an actual picture of them, which appears to be like a brain with a stingy tail and wings. Demonac, a Doomwolf. Oh, we've got a picture of Doomwolf there. We've got the Drakarim. Gaiacs, we do have pictures of Gaiacs, but there's so many of these weird fantasy creatures which we don't have pictures of. We've got Helghasts. So the Gaiacs, the Drakarim, and the Helghasts are the main servants of the Darklords, and they pop up a lot in the fantasy books. Pegasus. Plaghatar. I have no idea if I pronounced that right. Storg, steam spiders. So we've got a little artwork here to give us a rough idea. Vordax, Zion beasts, which are flying dragon-like creatures. And then we're on to normal animals. So bats, badgers, Bacna? Okay, there's not even a description for a Bacna. Oh, here it is. One of the fiercest natural predators of the coastlines of Colt, Bacna have nearly been hunted to extinction because of their body fat. But it doesn't describe what they look like. It doesn't say whether they're... Oh, there it is, finally. They appear to be walruses with forelegs and sharp claws. And that's the description. There's a fantasy creature here, and there's no real detailing to it. Oh dear. So we continue through ordinary creatures. So if you want to have a lion or a mere squid or a monkey, you've got all the stats here for it. Then we've got the designer's notes, random number table like in the old game books. So you would go, I have rolled an 11. That's what my finger's on, an 11 I'm sure. Signs and Portents, the monthly gaming magazine from Mongoose Publishing. So obviously Signs and Portents is a Babylon 5 name, but Mongoose published the Babylon 5 D20 system as well. And we've got the index to make things easy to find. The character sheet here, which is slightly modified, but it's recognisable as a 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons character sheet. We've got the stats, we've got the skill list, equipment, class features, and then we've got the OGL license. And just inside the back cover here, we have, if I can get it to fold out without totally ruining it, a very lovely full colour map of Magnamund. It is an absolutely lovely map. If I move it, I'm knocking the camera, which isn't very good. This is where the Lone Wolf books actually start off. We're in Sommerland up here. Such a small country, but so important in the game book. Anyway, so that's an open gaming license game which came out around about the time of D20 and 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons. Based on Lone Wolf, which, as I said, is my favourite sort of fighting fantasy. They kind of got me into gaming. I read them round about the time I first read The Hobbit back in the 80s. So they really had an effect on me. This is what fantasy role-playing was supposed to be like. But this book is a big letdown to me. They've wasted the opportunity. While I like the way they've laid it out, you know, with all the character abilities within a short section. You notice there was no magic spell section, for example. The wizards have their spells and their abilities all within their own few pages of description. We don't have 200 pages of just spells which may or may not be used. Anyway, that was Lone Wolf. Thank you very, very much for watching, as always. Please like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing, even when I'm stumbling over my words and having difficulty pronouncing everything. But, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.